So last week I finally reviewed a mixer that I've had for going on over 5 years now, and immediately after I upgraded to the slightly newer model, the Behringer X2222 or something. That was supposed to be just a couple more inputs and clean up the signal because mine had some capacitors dying. But you all didn't seem to like the fact that I was using Behringer at all. And a lot of people were recommending a lot of digital mixers and a lot of mixers that really weren't at all suited for what I'm doing. But someone had the best possible recommendation I have ever come across. And that is this bad boy, the Soundcraft Signature 12 Multitrack. Now they have two different versions here. One's the standard USB, one's the Multitrack. And this one has the ability to do something really cool. And I had to confirm with the owner who recommended it to me that it worked this way because no other mixer works this way. And I even had to have Jason from Painfully Honest Tech, who owns the like $800 twice as many input version as something falls off, to make sure that it does in fact do what I think it does. But this bad boy is actually smaller. You might notice it is smaller than this mixer here. It has a few less inputs, which is going to require me to get a little creative. But it allows you to set up separate individual audio devices for every single input and output over USB if you install the drivers. Now, that may sound obvious. You may be thinking, well, that's the point of multi-track mixers, right? Most multi-track mixers only have one audio device. They only have one that they set up as a giant 18, 12, 14 channel. So a lot of paperwork. Basically, all of these would come in as one audio device as if it were surround sound or something, and that doesn't work with OBS or any of the live recording video things that I do. That works for a dedicated audio workflow. But a mixer like this, I can make mic 1 an input, that's an input, that's an input, all individual devices registered in Windows, and separate them in OBS, in audio capture applications, anything. And the same thing, I can route USB audio back into the mixer and map it to individual inputs as well. So if I want my computer sound to be input 2 or 3, it can do that. If I want Discord or Skype or whatever going through input 4, it can do that. So we're gonna flip over to the desktop and I'm gonna show you how this works, but this is freaking amazing.
But no mixer is perfect, and there are some quirks with this one. Yes, it does set up every pair of inputs as available input and output devices within Windows, visible to the WDM devices or ASIO drivers simultaneously. This is what I was looking for, and it's amazing. But the key word there is pairs. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. They're all paired into a single device no matter what. This means that my two microphone inputs on inputs 1 and 2 are forced to the left and right channels in that first USB device. This isn't a problem for most of my uses. OBS can force an audio device to mono, I can capture a mono only inside Adobe Audition, but for VoIP calls via Skype or Discord or what have you, that would leave me only coming out of the left speaker or headphone in many cases for the people I'm chatting with. Digging through the forums, the manuals, anything I could find, there doesn't seem to be anything that can be done about this. So I'm simply using the group 1 to 2 output on the mixer to run into the line-in jack on my motherboard, something I had already run for the sub-mix of my Behringer mixers, but that's just for VoIP calls. It doesn't matter if calls have the technically cleanest audio, it's more than good enough. Meanwhile, the actual recording will be done straight from the USB in theoretically higher quality. Technically, I could do some janky routing with the aux outputs to make a stereo pair of the mic, but that would just use up more connections and generally not be worth it. The USB send and return happens immediately after the gain knob and limiter, but before any of the EQ or faders are applied. So I can mix my sources to my heart's content for me to hear, or for the master mix, which is also an accessible USB device, but that won't impact the USB capture of the single input. Alternatively, you could pull in your microphone inputs after gain, apply live software processing to them, and then output them to the same channel on the mixer to the faders. Pretty fancy stuff. You can also output audio from your computer to any of the channels on the mixer. There is a dedicated USB reserve track for 11 and 12 that I use for system sound, and then you can send other sounds to other pairs or individual channels via the USB return buttons. So I have USB return on for inputs 5 and 6, which I'm currently not using, and those act as my Discord output. So I don't have any analog audio runs from my PC to inputs on this mixer. It's all handled via USB, which is amazing and helps reduce line noise, high frequency bleed, and so on, because there's nothing from analog sources running into it other than my secondary PC. The main mix, or master as it's called here, output is XLR, so I had to buy XLR to 1/4 inch cables to run to my studio monitors. Not a big deal. However, the headphone output only hears that master mix, which is kind of annoying. There's no soloing sources like on my Behringer mixers, so if I want to hear myself, I have to enable my microphone on the master track. There's also no RCA 2-track output like on the Behringers, so I will have to set up my old mixer at my gaming PC or something for running to a tape deck, which honestly isn't a big deal. Overall, this is a really neat mixer. The quality is great, I hear the onboard EQ and effects are of high quality from other reviews, and the built-in limiter for the first 2 mic inputs is kind of handy. I wish I could have gotten the 22 multi-track model, and I wish there were more dual 1/4 inch inputs and that I could bring mono devices into Windows, but it's certainly a step up. Huge shoutouts to Clockwork Dork for the recommendation and help, as well as Painfully Honest Tech for some help in deciding as well. Affiliate product links are in the description below, as well as a link to the review of my Behringer X1832 USB mixer as well, which is essentially what I'm upgrading from. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe for more tech education, consider becoming a channel member with the join button, or joining us on Patreon, and I'll see you next time.